Hello, and welcome to another episode of Tell Me About Your Book. My name is John Christian. Today's guest comes from North Cyprus. Her name is Diller Ertug, and she has written a book about dragons. That's right, dragons. But it's much more than that, so stay tuned. Hi, Diller. Welcome to the show.
Hi, John. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. Now, I understand you wrote a book about dragons. Tell me about it.
I I did indeed. Dragons galore. Um, Around December last year, I self-published my debut novel. I have it with me here. It's called The Killsmith of Etherdene. It's it's a made-up title, made-up profession, and it's a friendship story. In essence, it's a friendship story. I wanted to do something a little bit different and a little bit familiar at the same time, and a story that makes people laugh, makes them happy to read.
How does a dragon work into this?
Well, first of all, who doesn't love a dragon, right? I felt like, there weren't enough stories about dragons per se. So I feel like a lot of people these days are trying to go the high fantasy route, and I have immense respect for that. But I can't do something that everyone's trying to do, and with all the Tolkien around these days, it makes no sense to try and emulate that. So I decided to create my own category, and I'm calling it low fantasy as opposed to high fantasy. And what that means for me is, I'm not going to drag you into this immense world where it's got its own rules and it's got its own, tedious details and minutia. It will have those things, but I'd rather the reader sort of encompass, like, took that in along the way. I don't want to force feed that to my readers. And so what ended up happening is the book sort of reads like a fantasy sitcom, which I think gives everything a bit of a different flavor. And essentially, it's a friendship story between a dragon and a woman whose job it is to kill dragons. Hence the title, The Killsmith of Etherdene. A killsmith is a profession I made up. They're sort of mercenaries, obviously, like warriors for hire, dealing with nuisances and other, evildoers and this, that, and the other. And they get proper compensation for it. But in this story, you sort of, every profession caps at the age of 30, whereupon you're forced to join a guild, which is the fantasy version of unionizing.
I see. Sounds like there's a lot of character development in your story.
There is. I'm very dialogue heavy. I enjoy a lot of banter, and I don't like to drown people in detail because I like to leave things open to interpretation. My characters can be any color you want, they can be any sexuality you want. Have at it, because the point is the story. It doesn't really matter what they look like. You get the bare essentials, you get the description, you know where we are and what we're about to do. It is an adventure story. I cannot emphasize enough how much of a friendship story it is. I'm not interested in putting forward like a YA, this, that, and the other. With all due respect to everyone who writes YA or any other genre, that's great. I wanted to write something that would make me laugh. And if it makes me laugh, it's got to make somebody else laugh. The secret to this, as my closest friend who's sort of helped me bounce ideas off of her, is keep it simple, because I do have a knack for sort of going so detail intensive that I can't write myself out of it. So with this one, maybe simple is the wrong word, but I wanted to keep it clean, a straightforward story.
Okay, is that something that could be read to children or by children as well?
I don't think it's a children's book. I drop the F bomb a lot for humorous effect. Um, I being a millennial, I think I wrote this for the millennials because the tagline on the back is it's very simple. It's just one sentence. It's everything sucks and there are dragons. I wanted to write something that sort of reflected that, a character who's finally found something that she really loves doing and she liked to keep doing it, but the laws of her world won't necessarily allow for that to continue.
So it sounds like it's a bit allegorical then, which I happen to
It's
like stuff like that.
it's very allegorical. If you'd like to take it in that direction, it absolutely can be.
How are sales doing for you?
This is my debut novel, and I'm really trying to find my way through the marketing hustle. It's not easy.
You told me that you are thinking about writing a second book. Is that true?
That I am. Yes, I'd like to have this be part of a trilogy. I'm not as good as others are at churning out books, and that's not meant as a slight. Some people just have a clearer vision of where they want to go, and they can get there a lot quicker than I can. For me, it takes a bit longer, and also have a job, as most of us do.
Right.
So, gotta wait for that inspiration to come. But yes, it will be a trilogy. I can almost guarantee that.
Do you have an idea about why it should be a trilogy and what each one of the three books, how they complement the one before it?
I've written other things before that I've yet to publish, and I've sort of felt more familiar with keeping things as a trilogy. It's it's really tidy at the end of the day. I mean, to me, that's what it feels like. I can set up a good premise in the first book. In the second book, I can really get into the meat of things, which is what I'm trying to do now. And then I can sort of wrap it up in a bow and serve the whole thing up at the end. Um, I don't know if you'll agree with me on this, but I think the second book is the hardest.
You mean the second book of the trilogy? Well, it gets more difficult for me, so I would say yes, I tend to agree. Are you using words that perhaps some people may stumble over and not understand?
Not at all. In fact, you'll recall I just said it's like a sitcom, like a fantasy sitcom. If anything, I think the language is very, very now, very today. It's just the way people sort of tend to converse. So, for people who are going to read this, I would recommend that they read it and try to imagine just people conversing, getting upset when they should get upset, or just reacting to things as we would in today's world,
Hmm. Except with dragons.
except with dragons, obviously.
Right. How
Because
big?
why not?
Sure. How big are these dragons? Like, I don't know what a dragon,
They
how big?
vary.
Okay, it varies. Different types of dragons or different sizes?
Different types, different sizes. That's actually a very good question because my main baddie obviously is a dragon, and he is sort of he's Titanic. He's getting to be gargantuan, and this is a problem.
Okay. All right. And you say there's a guild that one eventually the becomes part of to fight the dragons?
Um, okay, let's see. I think the best way I can sum this up is as a millennial writing a story that, I could not help but write, mostly for millennials and the mental anguish that we're going through as we advance in age. And I'm sure you know all about, like, there's just been a lot of articles and everything written about millennials. A lot of it's true, some of it's not true, but we've had a tough we've had a tough go. We're a sad generation. We're
Yeah.
kind of lost in between everything. I tend to view us as sort of like a lost generation, the almost great generation. And I don't have a problem with boomers per se because The more Gen Z comes along, and no offense to them, but the more they come along, the more I tend to understand the boomer mentality. So obviously generations are going to have diverse, ideas and mentalities and this, that, and the other. But speaking for on my behalf for millennials, it's we were almost great
Yeah,
until we were outdated before we even got to be something. And I think that sort of is the underlying message in a lot of what I write.
that's good. That's really good. I think it's a message that needs to be heard. I still can't understand boomers. I just don't seem to get along with them very much. It seems like they forgot some of the things that we were fighting for when we were young. Anyway, I'm a musician, as you can tell, so like I never lost my youthful vision of the world.
And you never should. As
No,
far as I'm concerned, you
no,
never should.
you shouldn't.
Which is why, when someone asks me, what's the book about? Well, in a nutshell, it's about dragons, but it's about so much more. I'm sure every author will say something along those lines, but really, it's sort of a low fantasy view of the world that we live in today.
Any final words, Diller?
Um, Yeah, I just like to tell people that if they give it a chance, I don't think they'll be disappointed. Do I think it's for everybody? No. Does it try to shove anything down your throat agenda wise? No. But if you're looking for a laugh and to go on an adventure that's lighthearted and has its ups and downs from time to time, I am quite proud of it. It makes me laugh, and I'm going to continue. So hopefully you guys will be interested in reading The Killsmith of Etherdene, part one.
Fabulous. It was a really nice time talking to you about your book and having you tell me all about it. And so I wish you well in your quest to form this trilogy.
Thank you, John. And I wish you all the luck in the world with finishing everything that you're doing because you're doing quite a lot. And thank you for the opportunity to talk about this.
Oh, you're welcome. My pleasure. You take care now.
You too. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye. Bye bye. Well, that's our show for today. And if you enjoy what I do here on Tell Me About Your Book, then please hit the like button and subscribe. And don't forget to ring that bell. And if you are a self-published author, I would love to hear from you. Until the next time, keep on writing and be good to each other.